in there. So then I'll show you kind of a simple application approval and issuance process, and then we can take a look at a more complicated, in-depth process.
Okay.
All right, so let me show my screen, and I'll just quick here. Okay, so can you see my screen okay?
Yeah. Is this the administrative side or the citizen side?
This is the administrative side. I know you wanted to see the citizen side first, but it makes more sense to look at it this way, and then because that's,
that's
one
fine.
little.
I just wanted to know. That's fine.
Okay. All right, so I'll show you the simple one first. This is one of our customers, and I'm just going to go in and add a new license. So to do that, I go to Quick Add, Business License. So this is the part, if the application came to you in mail, this is what you would do, or if they filled out a form and left it on your, brought it in, this is how you would get to that part. If they did it online, you wouldn't. What we do is plug in the applicant's information. So let's say that this is a business application. I'll just say, this is a contractor, Joe Construction, and I'll search to see if they're already in the system. If they're not, which typically they wouldn't be because they'd already have a license, I'll just click New here, and that gives me this page where I can plug in their information. So let's say it's Joe Smith and Joe Construction. I can plug in email addresses and phone numbers and an address. I've got the basic information, and now I'm going to jump down and start plugging in the license information. So this is Joe Construction. If it was tied to a specific location, I could put the business location in here as well.
Okay.
I'm going to select our type. So I'll just select a contractor registration. And once I do that, it shows my custom fields. So everything from here down, these are all the fields that we've set up that this customer wants to collect for these type of licenses. This will vary. And so usually what we do is we get your applications, and that helps us determine what your forms are. So we'll say that this is an electrician. It's a master. They want to capture their score. They want their mail to go to the business address. If they're going to issue it right on the spot, this is one of those simple ones, so we're going to say it's issued today, and it expires, let's say, in a year. And they use this just to get the next receipt number, and they collect additional information, the state license number, let's say the 12th, insurance information, bond expiration. So this is their basic license information. These fields would, again, be whatever your actual fields are. Then we'll plug in the fees, so $200 for a master registration. And then I can plug in a payment. So let's say they made this today. And I'll put in a reference. And so I've got everything in there. Here's our lot file. It assigns the license number, which is just the current year plus a sequential number. These tabs let you look at different information on the file. So if you wanted to attach any documents, like they have to attach copies of their license information, you can attach that. Their fees and payment information is here. And then if I'm ready to issue their license, I just go over here under Add and select Letter. And then we're going to say that this is a registration for their master. Click Generate. And then this is just a copy of whatever their actual license might look like. And so it will look however your license looks. So they mail this out. This is Middletown, Ohio. They have them cut this out and carry that little card around. So then I click Save, and it saves a copy of it. And so now I know that this one's issued. I can tell when it was generated and by who. And then when renewals come around, we just go into Reports and select this Renewal Notices option. And let's say this is for 2012. Let's do a test run. And when we run this, it just generates a merge, essentially, of all of the licenses that are going to expire. And it's just this general letter. And then they attach a form that they have to fill out and send back in. If I do a print preview, this will kind of show you how it looks on the page. So the first page is the letter, and then the second page is the form they need to fill out and send back in. So this notification lists everyone who needs to be renewed, and so they just print these and mail them. Okay. And then when the payment comes in, they kind of just do the same thing. They just generate that same letter again. So that's the simple. We get your application, we get your money, and we issue it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, I'll show you a more complicated one now. So I'm going to log off. And I'm actually going to go to our test site because this is an actual customer who's up and running, and I don't want to add fake data to their real data. Okay, so I'll just add another one, and it's a similar process. This is going to say this is a fire equipment. They do fire equipment licensing, so I'm going to say this is a fire equipment dealer for Joe Explosives. We're going to say it's licensing. They collect region and information like that. So I'll just say central. And then we're going to go ahead and choose our license type. So now this is a list of all the different types of license that they do. So I'm just going to select a dealer. And once I select that, it pulls up the workflow route. So this is an example of one of those complicated ones that it gets sent around and different people have to do different things. So this automates that. So the first thing in their task is it goes over to the supervisor, and the supervisor assigns someone to process this application. And then that person, whoever's going to do that processing, they're going to do an application review. They're just going to check to make sure we got all the documentation we need. Once that's done, it's going to go off to an inspector to go do an inspection. And then we wait for the exam information to come back. And then once all these things are done, it's going to go back to the processor to issue the license. So this can be whatever your tasks are. You can vary the days however you want to vary them. It just kind of mirrors whatever your process flow is. So I'll just select someone there, and we're going to keep our defaults and just click Save. So now I'll copy, start filling in our application information. I'm going to say this is under review. And let's go find our applicant. It's Joe Explosives. I'll search to see if they're in the system. If they're not, I'll click New to set up a new person. Put in their address. And a phone number. And I can put in a contact person's name if I want. So I get all their basic information. I can click Add. And then we'll start plugging in the rest of their information. Again, all of this is custom information, so it's based on your application. So we'll say that they're the employer, and the same person's also the qualifier. If they're HALON exempt, they can do that. And they'll plug in their insurance information. Their expiration date, if they collect a policy number, an agent number, and an agent name. And they get all their basics in there, and then they just click Save. So that sets up the file, and then it starts that workflow process. So it's similar to what we looked at last time on the permitting side. It just happens to be whatever your process is for your license approval. So we'll take a look at that, and I'm on the test site here, so it's a little bit slower. So if I come over here to reviews, here's that review route. So it's sitting over here on the supervisors, and they're going to assign a processor, and then it's going to go through each of these applications. I'll just go mark this one done so you can kind of see how it moves down the list. Plug in today's date since that she did this. It's complete. We'll save it. And then that's going to move it down to the next person to do the licensing review. So here's where the checklist to kind of review this application type comes in. So here's the review checklist. These are all the things that they have to capture or that the applicant has to provide in order to apply for this type of a license. So whoever's checking this off can come in and kind of say, all right, these are the things that are complete or incomplete. And so let's say they just didn't give us a whole bunch of information. So once they do this, they can say, this is incomplete, and I want to send a deficiency notice. So to do that, I'm going to click Generate Letter here, and I'll select a deficiency notice. So here's just kind of the template of the letter. So each of these sentences was one of those items that I said incomplete to. And that last thing is the custom one I plugged in. So you can customize this based on what information you have to provide. Some people can do a simple checklist like this where it's print this standard text. Some cities have to have more, they need to customize each individual item a little bit. So we just kind of, work with you on what you need to put in this sort of a deficiency notice. So they'd mail this out and save a copy of it so they have a record of it. And they use this notice for, this is the state of Florida, they have, anytime from a regulatory perspective, they have 30 days to issue a deficiency notice once it comes in. And if there are no deficiencies, they have to issue that license within 90 days. So they use the date of this notice to figure out if they were able to get that deficiency notice out within the first 30 days. So anything that you're putting in a system you can use to generate reports off of. So let's say that they brought in the missing information. The processor would just come in and then update their documents here and mark things as complete. And if they only sent some of them in, they could just mark those items complete and then send another deficiency notice. So we'll say that this is now complete. And that's going to push it on to the next person. So now it's sitting over there for the inspectors to do an inspection. Do you do inspections on your licenses?
Yes.
Okay, so that process will kind of mirror whatever your inspection process is. They have a pretty complicated inspection form. I'll pull it up here. It's kind of scary. But they have this huge list of things they have to look at. What kind of an inspection? Is it a mobile? And then they have these checklist items that they have to say yes or no to. And it's huge. It just goes on and on and on and on forever. But they do the similar thing. They fill out this form. They'll say whether they passed or failed it. And then they'll generate an inspection report. I don't have that form letter set up in here, but it's generally a letter that contains all of those checklist information. So then once that's done, it goes on to the next person, which is waiting for that exam. Once those exam results come back in, they can push it along. And then when they're ready to issue the license, they can just pull it up here, plug in their basic information, and then generate the license. So it's just a basic, here's the person and all of his basic information. It assigned the expiration date. So for each license type, they have a different expiration date, so it'll automatically assign that for you. So they would mail this or print it, and then when they're done, they'll close it and say yes to save it. So that's a more complicated license and the process that it goes through for issuance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions, anything I didn't show you on that side of things?
No.
Okay. So then if we take a look at the online citizen portion, I'm going to show you the online component that's we're working on right now for this particular customer, just so you can kind of see how that goes together. So here's what theirs looks like. And so what we do is we make it look like your website. So this is similar to what theirs looks like. So when they go into regulatory licensing, they can say apply for a new license. And then here it lists all their license types, which are the same as the license types we saw in there. So once they click that, they can fill out this form. And then you can, when we set this up, you tell us which fields you want to require. So you can say, all right, these little red lines are the things that they want to require.
And then is there somewhere where if they need to attach some documents that they can attach those?
Yeah, these links right here, if you click them, it'll go into a browse portion so that you can plug it in. So all of their different checklist items, all these fields, they get filled out, and then all those documents get attached.
Okay.
And then once you click submit, it plugs it into the system it's sitting on, in their case, the supervisor's list to assign a processor. But you could make it go to, if you have a, this is a person who takes care of these types, it can go right on that person's list.
Okay.
And then they can look at, they can view their licenses. Let's see. Let's grab somebody here. So they can look at their licenses, and they let them look at different types of documents. This is where it gets more detailed. Do you want them to see documents? Do you want them to be able to see inspections or schedule inspections, that kind of thing? This is all where it gets into the customization, for how you want it to work for your applicants. And that is an overview of that online side of things. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Well, that's kind of an
Julie?
overview of the licensing.
Julie,
Uh-huh.
how does somebody, can a citizen log in and, let's say apply for a business license or apply for a building permit? If they don't have a username and password, can they create their own type of setup?
It depends on how you want it to work. So most cities require that you log in to do a building permit or a license, because we have to get basic information from you anyways. So they require people to register on the site and then to log in. Things that are like if someone's got a complaint, or if you want people to be able to go on your site and search and pull up active licenses, most cities don't require a login for that kind of thing.
But a citizen can get on the program, can create a username and password, by registering,
Right.
and then go from there.
That's right. Now, if you already have businesses that are licensed, what we do with that is, because they're already in the system, you don't want them to register again. So typically what we do is we assign a generic password and username, and then you email or you mail all of them letters saying, hey, here's our new online website, here's your temporary login and password, and then we make them log in with that and then change their password, because we don't want them to create another contact. We want them to be able to get to their existing licenses.
Okay.
And permits for a contract, for permits.
Okay.